So welcome to another episode of Good Troublemakers. We want to thank the late John Lewis, the congressman from Georgia, who coined that wonderful phrase, and it aptly describes our two guests today, Heather Hutchinson and Rich Karsten, two good troublemakers who I think you'll enjoy hearing about, and about your work. Because really it's not just about who we are, but it's about what you're doing and what you have been doing. So I know right now you're very involved in anti-apartheid work, so maybe that's a good place to start. Apartheid, that's what happened in South Africa. I actually grew up in the apartheid South, in Louisiana, where it was apartheid until I was in my teen years. So I know something about that, but what's the apartheid you're interested in here?
Yeah, so currently we started up apartheid-free Western Massachusetts. And the apartheid-free communities movement or initiative was started by American Friends Service Committee. And they have a wonderful website with a lot of resources that explain about apartheid in Israel, and a nice map and all sorts of things for the international community to get involved and to take a pledge. So the pledge that they ask organizations and businesses to take is: we affirm our commitment to freedom, justice, and equality for all Palestinians and all people. We oppose all forms of racism, bigotry, discrimination, and oppression. We declare ourselves an apartheid-free community, and to that end, we pledge to join others in working to end all support to Israel's apartheid regime, settler colonialism, and military occupation.
So could you give us the American Friends Service Committee website so our listeners could check it out?
Yes, yep. So I actually wrote down here, you can go to the American Friends Service Committee and check out the pledge, check out the resources by using this link. And what we're doing here in Western Massachusetts, you can send us an email or follow this link to fill out a form for more information. And so what we're really trying to do as a local community of people is to just start having conversations. Right now, we're all so separated and we're not getting out and saying, hey, how are you doing? We live in this very individualistic society, and we're trying to keep our heads above water, especially in the current state of the world. And as apartheid-free Western Massachusetts, we're really looking to come back to our communities to check in, to say, we don't want oppression, we don't want bigotry in our communities, we want our freedoms, and to relate together in a more loving way.
Beautiful, yeah, well put.
So you're talking about where this focus is primarily on Israel's apartheid. When you mention it, I think about the roads that only the Israelis can drive on. It's been described as worse than the apartheid of South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I also just want to let our listeners know, because particularly if you're in Western Massachusetts, we had a very active American Friends Service Committee. And in their great wisdom years ago, they cut out a lot of the small offices.
Yeah.
But I'm very happy to see that they're doing this very important work.
Yep.
And so for those of you who had questions about AFSC, American Friends Service Committee, be relieved that they're doing some good work and you're carrying it on right here in Western Mass. So talk some more about how you're doing this. How are you spreading the word about this, being an apartheid-free Western Massachusetts?
Yeah, well, first I want to say thank you, Paki, for having us here. It's a real honor to get this opportunity to sit down and talk a little bit, share what we've been doing. Yeah, we work closely with the American Friends Service Committee and also with our comrades in Vermont that have brought this to 5 municipalities now that have signed on as communities that are free of apartheid, where all people are equal and treated with dignity. So what we're doing is bringing that to Western Mass, and at its core, it's about having conversations. Just check in with people, see how they're doing, to help build safe communities and bring to light the apartheid regime in Israel, the settler colonialism and the militarism, but also to address on a local level what is concerning people here and what we're feeling. So,
because I think there are some parallels, aren't there? Now, obviously, it's another limping analogy, but the what ICE is doing in this country is very much apartheid behavior.
That's right, yeah. Someone had said to us the other day, what does ICE have to do with apartheid? That is apartheid. You're seeing apartheid here. And what's one racial group is opposing another group, or one people are subjecting another people to oppression. As you mentioned, in America's South, we have a history of apartheid. And for a lot of people, they connect it with the struggle in South Africa. But as you pointed out, in Palestine, it's that much worse, because in South Africa, there was a recognition that they needed the labor force to work. And now things have deteriorated to the point in Palestine where it's become genocide, it's become ethnic cleansing, even omnicide, where it's targeting of all life, of the healthcare system, the educational system, the environment.
So, good theory, good history. How do you put this into practice? What cities and towns, and how does a city become an anti-apartheid city? I mean, we're in Greenfield, and I don't think that's come to the city council
Not
or
yet.
The mayor. Yes.
Yeah. So it starts by one-on-one people getting out and having conversations. So we have people that are with us who are starting to do that, who've approached different businesses in the area, Northampton, East Hampton, Greenfield, to say, hey, would you sign this pledge? This 4 statement pledge, right? And then the other thing that we're working on is in Montague, Great Falls, and all the towns that make up Montague, where we would like to see Montague as a whole become apartheid free, to resolve, come together to say we stand against racism, bigotry, we stand for equality and justice. And so what we will be doing in the next couple of weeks is we will be going door to door to have conversations. And each town is a little bit different in terms of like their governance structure. But basically for Montague, the way it's going to work, we get signatures on a petition that say, yes, there's enough voting constituents that would like to see this come before the council for vote. And then in the fall, it will be up to vote. In Montague, they happen to have like 120 or something people that are actually registered to vote. Which is different than, say, Leverett, which is one hand, one vote kind of thing, one person, one vote. And so if that passes, that will mean that the town as a whole has resolved to uphold these values. And sometimes we're asked, well, what does that mean? How do you implement this? Does this mean I have to divest? Does this mean I have to deshelve? And in general, what we try to say is this is the first step. Can we come together as a community around our values of what will make us safe and what will take us from the path of oppressing our neighbors who are different than us? So those are the two main approaches that we're working on now, and we'd love to get more people involved because it's a lot of legwork having all these conversations.
Sure. Yeah. So let's say Montague votes to be an anti-apartheid community. Greenfield votes to be an anti. So how do we operationalize that? What does it mean? So it means I'm going to be nice to everybody. Does it mean, what does it mean? How do we put it into practice?
Yeah, I might add that apartheid-free Western Mass, we actually asked people, individuals, not just organizations, but everyone to register that they stand against apartheid. And then the actual pledge, as the American Friends Service Committee has sent it up as an international initiative, is targeting organizations, so municipalities, churches and businesses. And then, as Heather was mentioning, we have a citizens petition in Montague for the whole municipality to take the pledge. And it's up to each organization in each community then to decide how they want to move forward with enacting that pledge to stand up against racism, bigotry, Israel's apartheid regime. Yeah, we would like to see, businesses perhaps de-shelve if that's within their means, but it doesn't dictate how they would go about it.
Now, when you say de-shelve, I want our listeners and viewers to understand, what does that mean?
Well, right, that's kind of a Western Mass understanding. So apartheid-free River Valley Co-op, we had an initiative asking our co-ops to de-shelve from products that was supporting Israel's apartheid regime until Israel abide by international law. And so we can see other businesses in the area taking similar approaches if they so choose. But strictly speaking, taking the pledge with the American Service Committee is up to each individual and how they implement.
And this really, I think, emphasizes the cultural, mental shift of a community towards one of morals and values. There's many ways of doing it. So Thetford, Vermont, came together as a community, and we're going to discuss, can we put into our rules that we won't buy from Caterpillar. So Caterpillar makes big equipment that are typically used to destroy Palestinians' homes. They don't invest in bonds in their municipality. It's only a small 2,000 resident town. So there's many ways to support changing the values of our society on a global scale by making little decisions where we can make those decisions, I think. And that's what, to me, is so beautiful about this, is because it's about those conversations. It's about, can we make a heart-to-heart connection and say, just because we don't know someone from Palestine, just because maybe we don't know a Muslim or someone that lives in the inner city, doesn't mean that we dehumanize them, that we say, oh, they're just whatever, which is what we typically do, especially in the United States. We do this to one another, and it breaks down our society when we have so much hate and fear of others.
I think this is a wonderful idea, and I love that your articulation of this, that the first step is to say, I want to examine my values and I want to live them. That I think, given the current climate in our country and generally, I think there's so many people who are so frustrated, whether it's health care or the support of the Israeli government or whatever it is. The whole ICE thing. I mean, we just we're watching what's happened in some of our cities, and they're absolute affronts to not just our morality, but to our laws. We have failed miserably since our inception at obeying those laws or implementing them, but we keep striving to do it. I think many of us live aspirationally, that we want the country to be what it says it wants to be, and this is a wonderful example of putting it into practice, so that you can not only feel like, I'm doing something, but I'm also doing it in community.
Yes.
And that's so important.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we need to build these on-ramps for one another, right? To be able to come to a place of engagement, of activism. You know, I think, like, when we are materially invested in systems that really don't do our society good, you know, so the military-industrial complex, for instance,
example.
Right? People that are working in military, they're getting paid really well, and it's
on
very,
the top.
even not on the top, right? I mean, I was in procurement, and I got paid really quite well. I had good benefits, I had a good salary. But if I am continuing in that system of procuring, and it's not necessarily all military of what, say, I was doing, if I'm perpetuating that system, yes. I'm a piece of that system. And in that, I'm never going to be able to really, truly, even if at home I grow my own vegetables, I live simply, I'm impacting the world by making this machine go round and round working for a corporation. But in order for me to extract myself from that system, I need the support of other people. I need to come together with other people who are like, we got your back, which is very hard, I think, in our society, because we're individualistic in the United States. So.
But I think that's really so important. You know, when we were getting ready, when I was thinking about you, I thought of you as internationalist. You know, in distinction from the uber nationalist, because I think we have to be aware. When you talk about apartheid, it didn't start in Israel. It didn't start in the Deep South. That it is ubiquitous, and it's been fought against, and we have won. You know, and I think that's so important to realize that we have won many battles.
Yep.
You know, that we have moved forward. You know, sometimes I think, have we really? but if you look at it, and I listen to people, I listen to my people of color, and it was worse once upon a time. It's not great now, but it was worse, and so we incrementally move forward. And I wanted to talk with both of you, or to really listen to both of you, because I know you've done this anti-apartheid work. You've really been very great supporters of justice for the Palestinians. But I also learned that you went to Cuba this past year, and what led you to do that? And what did you do in Cuba or learn in Cuba that you brought back that is informing the work you're doing now?
Yeah, Cuba's always had a certain charm and mystique for me. I've always wanted to go and experience it. And Code Pink was going and joining with Proximita Cuba for an educational tour. And they made it easy. We just get a plane ticket, they took care of stuff, and our days were really full of rich experiences of meeting people, meeting economists, meeting entrepreneurs, meeting artists, and getting to see a lot that was going on. And it's such a different society that I wanted to see and I wanted to experience. You know, you can read things in a book and then I retain it in an intellectual way that can almost be a barrier. But when you get a chance to actually talk and meet with people, and what I found is the Cuban people are so beautiful, so wonderful, and although there's an embargo blocking resources coming in and they're learning to live without, they're still taking care of each other. Yeah. And it was a real pleasure to be there and have that opportunity.
Yeah. I'm particularly happy to hear this. Because one of the things that's happening right now is this government is making it more difficult to go, our government, to go to Cuba. And I think, you know, part of the myths we grew up with was the evils, the different evils, you know, whether it was communism, whatever it was. And here in our backyard is Cuba, that is a different system than we have, and people take care of each other. They really do without so much, But I think for you to go, and this is one of the reasons I wanted our listening audience and viewing audience to hear this and to see it is that we have so many myths, about the repression, about the terrible life that the poor people living under communist rule live, and my experience in Cuba was similar to yours. That wow, this is quite a different culture, and it's very supportive of people.
Absolutely, yeah. Free healthcare, free education. They're making the best of what they have. I was touched going through some of the areas that you see the infrastructure breaking down, and when you go through an American city which has an infrastructure breaking down, it's a sign of poverty, and there might be some discomfort and violence there, but we did not feel that at all. People were so outgoing and taking care of one another, supporting us. Yeah.
So you came back from Cuba, refreshed and invigorated, seeing that different way of being, and and I think what happens is we can become a monolith. There's only one way to do it, and what's happening in our society right now is it's really falling apart. And so to see other countries, to see other systems working with good education, with good health care, and we won't even go into health care because we have limited time, but, and what else can you add to that, Heather?
Well, what I found fascinating, I guess, was I went really coming out of this, feeling like a really ignorant American. I hadn't taken the time to really understand our government's policies around the world. And that really brought it into focus for me in a way that I hadn't experienced before. Like, we've been to Belize, we've went to Brazil, and so you see the poverty and these other kind of things. But I was less aware of the systemic oppression of an independent nation by my country's policies. And so that was one of the things that everyone was talking about, was the blockade, which impacts their, it's an economic blockade which infiltrates every aspect of a civilian's life. And I was upset. I was like, this is really unfair that my country is causing so much suffering someplace else. And it really got me thinking more about settler colonialism in Israel and Palestine, settler colonialism here in the United States, and the genocide of the Native American people, the genociding of Palestinians, and how many of us as Americans are ignorant, and we've come to normalize this behavior around the world. This heartlessness around the world, because we're in the system that is, paying our rent or, paying our paycheck, and we're like, that's over there. But that trip for me really brought it home that, nope, in particular with the change in administration, and you see how fragile democracy in our country was. Freedom of speech. It's something that you have to work for and keep working for. It's not something that just stays. And so the Cuban people were amazing in that they were working under such a domineering, oppressive blockade, yet they're like, we'll find a way. Somehow, even though we can't import these goods because they have at least 10% of, the U.S. material, whatever. Yes. And that vitality of a population, I almost feel like is somewhat lacking in the United States even. We're just sort of like, okay, we're just on the treadmill, we're just going. But in Cuba, everybody was like, I don't know if I'm doing it right, I might be doing it wrong. I'm going to ask the government if they'll, form a cooperative with me, because I've got this idea for my neighbors, for the children of the city. I mean, it was mind-blowing. You don't hear Americans typically talking like that. So it was so touching in that way. So it really inspired me, like, they may not have everything, in terms of a shaped, yes, this is the way to go, but they're onto something, and I think we can too if we start formulating what is our new narrative, what is our new vision for our country that is about equality and freedom, really. Yes. Diversity, really, not just, pink washing and green washing and rainbow washing, whatever.
Whitewashing,
yes,
however.
Whatever it is. It's just, so
Too much washing in this country.
Right. We need to bring that heart back, that heart. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things you're doing with this apartheid work you're doing, the anti-apartheid work, that it does. I mean, one of the things you started with was the importance of the one-on-one conversations, the importance of building relationships. And that often gets lost when we're on the treadmill.
Yes.
Or we're so indoctrinated into ideologies, and to really look at what is it that makes us humans, and what is it that makes life worth living.
Absolutely. Yeah, the conversations to me are critical, and it feels like it's really taken off the movement, and I've almost been surprised how many people have grasped onto it. And I kind of looked at myself, what does it do? I see this trauma in the news every day, and you don't know what to do with it. You end up kind of internalizing it. But through the Apartheid Free Initiative, it gives people a way to take the trauma they're seeing and do something productive, to go out and talk to your neighbor, to have a conversation, to try to understand. So the word apartheid is a connection to such many more conversations and many more viewpoints. But at its core is about having the conversations. So even if you technically get to a certain goal, or somebody taking a pledge or a resolution going through, you still have those conversations. And the feedback I've gotten is that people are really feeling that they have a place to put their energy, to transform some of that suffering in them. And we've been tremendously well received, going to talk to people, going businesses to businesses, to see if they take the pledge and to join in. We've been very well received.
I mean, I think that is part of it. That I think people who are aware. I just read something today that the Pope's comment on wokeness, this awakening, this was very positive. Being awoke is seeing what's happening, and so I think to both realize that that things are not good, whether we want to look at what we're doing internationally or even domestically. I mean, I listened to Karen Bass the other day talk about going to MacArthur Park, and what happens in Los Angeles, and then seeing what's happened with the flooding in Texas. That when you talk about the infrastructure, it's going down the drain. So you're doing this anti-apartheid work, and so you want people. I'd like you to tell our viewers how they can get involved or learn more about this from AFSC. Is it?
Yeah. Apartheid-free.org. Apartheid-free.org.
This is one of the lovely flyers that they have. So this is their actual website. You can search apartheid-free communities, and it'll pop right up, and you can explore that. If you're a business or organization, you can go directly from apartheidfree.org, or you could use this. And if you want to get in touch with us, these top two options are a way to do that. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? I think so many people are like, oh, I have this thing or the other thing, and I can't do X, Y, Z, and I can't spend 10 hours, on something. It's like, you don't have to, but can you take the first step and reach out and connect with someone, and then see what happens from there. It's sort of a creative reconnecting, I think, heart to heart with people. So.
Yeah. And I think it's, as we talked about earlier, it connects you to everything else.
Yes.
Yeah, try to ground it, and feeling from the heart. So often we we push things out on an intellectual level, and I think some of our inaction, because we get stuck in our head in false narratives. And what's important, and having those conversations and recognizing that we're really all one global family, you start feeling it from the heart. And we like to start with just hearing where people are at, where their concerns are at, what's going on for them, and trying to help build community. We regularly have potlucks and opportunities to get together so that it doesn't just stop at signing a pledge or joining the organization, but we continue to build opportunities for the community to come together.
So when you say we, you're talking about the apartheid-free
Western
the apartheid-free
Massachusetts.
community.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that's a big piece too, because I harken back to the Congressman John Lewis and his Good Trouble, that it's very counter to the culture to do what you're doing, because the culture is a little off kilter, maybe a little more than a little off kilter. And so when you talk about a different narrative, it's not just the narrative, but it's the actual living it. And that I think when you do this, you're both the outreach to people and also the community building, so that people don't feel so alone.
That's right.
Because I think what can happen is any of us can just go kind of crazy on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking in terms of, reading about movements like the bus boycott, right? That wasn't just one person taking a stand, and sitting in the seat. That wasn't just one person refusing to get on the bus. It was hundreds of people for a long time. And how do you do that? You come together, and part of what we'd be interested in creating more with the Apartheid-Free Western Massachusetts network is a way to offer mutual aid. So with the bus boycott, they were buying vehicles collectively. They were doing fundraisers so they could buy vehicles to help people get to and from work.
Yeah.
This isn't just, a free form something and maybe it'll happen. It was strategic. Yes. And we won't be strategic, and we won't build the power of our community voice until we can come together and focus on where do we want to go from here? What needs to change? So if it's ICE in our communities, let's draft a resolution to make our community a safe community, or let's make it so our police are not trained in Israel. There are many things that we can do to demilitarize our communities or whatever, but you're not even going to think of that and be able to pull anything off unless you come together. So come together. Yeah.
And I think this is where you go back to the good trouble, because the country is about being the most powerful military in the world, right?
Yeah.
So you good troublemakers say, no, I think there's something better. There's another way. It won't be perfect,
right?
But that's, what is that expression? The perfect is the enemy of the good,
right?
That movement toward what we envision, whether it's how to enliven the Bill of Rights, to how do we live in a neighborhood? What is it we want? And I think one of the things that with what's happening in this country right now is there are myriad opportunities because it's so bad.
Yeah, to make some good trouble.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Whatever you're doing is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think I love your reminder to me and us and the viewers of the importance of being strategic. That sometimes, yes, we do have these great haywire ideas, and we need to throw them out because sometimes they catch and that was a good idea that we can implement, like sitting on the bus or boycotting the bus. That was tough work.
It was very tough work.
And leaders emerge, and what we've got today is we've got so many people who are committed we see periodically on the news all the people who are protesting all over the country. So those are good. I don't want to dissuade anyone from going out to an overpass or, downtown or anywhere. But then what? And we just recently in Greenfield had a big rally against ICE and supporting immigrants, basically. Yep. And then there were people who had the opportunity to sign up, if you hadn't already signed up, to be a supporter, to be a first or second line supporter of people. That that there's so many things in it, and that working against. I think that's the other thing that is so important. That I'd like you to comment on that there isn't a hierarchy in the sense of whether you're working for anti-apartheid, but you're working for to stop ICE, and how those need to come together, and how we need to support one another in those things. Because that, as you said, is one of the things with our individualism of this whole culture we don't do.
Yeah.
So the good troublemakers do those things.
They do, and they help people to connect the dots, right?
Yes.
That all of these separate little things are important and they need to be done, but we don't need to be fighting for resources and people and whatever. They're all related, and so whenever I've done presentations, I've tried to bring it back to how these all intersect, how they all connect. And it's important to keep our focus on that these are the problems that we're trying to address are being caused by underlying systems. It's not about people that are a problem, the bad guys. It's the systems.
Yes. So it's not just connecting the dots, but connecting the roots.
Yes.
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 So Heather Hutchinson and Rich Karsten, I can't thank you enough for being our good troublemakers, and so happy that you keep making trouble, and invite everybody who's watching this to join the troublemakers and find your own way to do it. And we'll see you again on the streets or in the town meeting or in the city hall.
Definitely, everywhere, all at once.
It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.